get in here.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite guardian of the wheels, favorite nerd. Today we are looking at the Hot Toys Chirrut. This is the standard version, not the deluxe version. The deluxe version comes with some extra accessories that I personally do not need. So $230 was a much better price to kind of swallow than $260 or whatever it is they charge for the deluxe version. You guys know I kind of have mixed feelings on Hot Toys price point in terms of its worth and value. So it's really got to be something I hold in top priority to spend $260 on one. That being said, this guy's pretty well done. A couple issues, strange issues here that we're going to talk about. Probably specific to mine, but we'll get there. But first, let's talk about these hands, Mac. Put hands on them. For his left, we have a couple different, like, sort of force-using hands. As you saw, he comes with two fist hands. They're all detailed the same. We'll talk about them when we go through the figure. They are different. One's more of a, you know, kind of feeling, and then one's more sort of meditative almost in a way. Decent enough and interesting choices. We have the more meditative look on the right side as well. We have a trigger hand for the right hand. We have two staff holding hands for right and left, and then one sort of pose holding hand for the staff, or I think this will also work. I'm not exactly sure for the bowcaster. All of them detail the same. Like I said, we'll talk about them here in a minute. Here is kind of the bowcaster. I'm not sure what the technical term for it is. It is a thing of beauty. Now, as you guys know, the one thing I do give Hot Toys 100% credit for is I think that their accessories are second to none. So this is it. It is fantastic. There's tons of sculpted detail throughout. There are different paints. There's a gold, there's a silver, there's washes on here, there's Tampo paint on here. It looks fantastic. And then there's the faux leather strap with the accurate buckles and so forth. The gears are all sculpted, but they don't actually work. Like, it's not like moving gears. Like these pieces are just pinned in separately, and these pieces extend here. And then I don't know if this back here extends, you know, and that's an actual metal rod, so that looks very cool. It's an amazing, amazing accessory. Like, it's just sculpted and painted to the nines. I know I use that term a lot, but if there was ever an accessory that deserved it, it's this one. I have to admit. And then he comes with this bow staff accessory. It is a little warped, which is a bummer, but we have the sort of, I don't know if this is actual metal. I don't think it is. It's just like a chrome silver paint finish, and then the black paint on top, and then we have the brown paint. I think it's paint anyway for the wood, and then it's washed with a black. Actually, it might be paint. It might not even be washed. It's washed with a darker brown, and then there's actually a darker brown / black grayish almost tone that's actually applied on top of that to give it some shadow. So that looks pretty good. And then, of course, he can hold them. And the hand that's just kind of the hand that you would use for the bow staff is definitely more appropriate for this grip here. The other one is definitely meant to just handle this in some way. And then he comes with two replacement ball hinges that swivel at both sides. This is the engineering for the wrist. This is also kind of a standard with them. Then he comes with a Hot Toys display base. You do get the character art card that you can sit on top if you'd like. It's personally not my thing. It's just a little too much. And then you get the nameplate with Chirrut on there. And this one's actually been banged up a bit. Let's see how the plastic is held up. The plastic did its job, ladies and gents. Looks good underneath with the Rebellion symbol in there, and then the Star Wars bit. So once again, I feel like they really nailed this face sculpt. From the paint to the sculpt itself, it just looks on the money. Like the kind of 5 o'clock shadow that's present, and the color of the blind eyes, you know, the shape of the eyebrows, the shape of the kind of facial structure, like it all looks dead on the money. The hair texture and the hair cut or style, like the side fade and such, like it just all looks dead on the money to me. The lip shape, everything just seems to have really been accounted for here. So we'll go through the soft goods and sculpt stuff first. We've already talked about the head and such. We'll talk about the paint one a little bit more, because I'm enthralled with it, not because we really need to when we go through the articulation. But we have the belt here. It's like this faux leather pleather kind of thing again, and it is weathered on top of the pleather, which is kind of like leather. How's the weather? Birds of a feather. sticking together. Forget about it. And then we have this piece down here hanging on. It's all plastic, sculpted, painted beautifully. It's a black cast, and then the silvers are painted on and washed, and then the white is painted on and then weathered, and then the red is painted on and weathered. So really, really phenomenal job there. They tend to knock their plastics out of the park anyway. All of these little bits in here that are stuffed in these pieces, they are removable from the bandolier or whatever, you know, these little holsters on this belt, and they're all plastic painted and sculpted. And then we'll talk about the boots, all sculpted, painted, weathered, like the toes are dirtier. And then we have the light brown that's painted on the soles, and then the darker brown at the bottom, and then the bottom of the shoes are all sculpted. We have these side pieces on his arm, sculpted beautifully, and then added the weathering to all the silver paint here. This is actually attached to the sleeve, and the sleeve isn't a real tight fit, so that can be a little obnoxious while you're moving it around, and part of it's unplugged. That's probably part of the reason why mine is having such an issue. I'll try to remedy that later. The red is painted, though. The silver is painted, and the same thing goes down here for the hands. All the hands, including, you know, the accessory ones, are all sculpted, beautifully painted, shaded, etc. We have like a vascular nature, texture, and muscular nature sculpted into the forearms. I doubt it's into the arm itself, no, it's not. So it's just on the forearm because that's all that's exposed. But it's really tremendous. The soft goods, we have like a felt material, and then almost like a faux, I don't know, it's almost like a denim. The stitching looks great. Like, it doesn't look, you know, one of my complaints is sometimes the stitching looks too big for the scale. Doesn't here. Then we have a different material here. We have a different material here. This material and that material are kind of the same, and it's also sort of the same as the pants. For the arms underneath this sleeve here, which is made up of the felt and actually this is a felt too. There's like this plastic, like, I don't know, ribbed nature to it. And all of those things, including this back cape here, which is a little bit more satiny. I do love the sculpt here of the boots. It's like an elastic, like these would be shoes you just slipped on and off. I think that works really well. The little tie down here in the bottom of the pants, that works well. I like the bagginess to the pants. I think it's all pretty accurate. All of the different textures here, and this side piece of red and white is done beautifully. But all the different textures, all the different like plastic elements that are added, all the strings and all this stuff, all that like is tied down here, the sculpt, like it does add. It's like when I talk about, and I've been talking about this a lot recently, but it's just I've been having figures that have really been driving it home. When you have different types of paints and different types of finishes and stuff, it just adds layers of texture to the figure that just make it seem more believable. I really like that kind of stuff. It doesn't look as plain. It looks a little bit more interesting. It grabs your eye just a bit more. So I think that's really well done. You can see the hair there on the back, like the fading and the color and stuff. Like, that's just like, it's almost like every strand of hair is sculpted. It's really extremely well executed. So yeah, I don't really have any complaints with this. I wish that the pants had a bit more weight to them, you know, because they should be hanging down a bit more, but as you manipulate them, they tend to rise up. But, you know, real fabric has weight, so it tends to sit down a bit. And it's just hard to get that weight to kind of come through in a 6-scale figure with you know, because the felt is, I mean, the material just is what it is. You can't change physics with scale, you know. But yeah, and there it is on the back. Pretty awesome. Now we're going to talk about articulation, which is where I have a very strange issue. The neck is all sculpted and stuff as well. The top of the chest, not so much. And there is actually, looks like a little zipper, maybe a clasp that you could get to work there if you'd like. So the head, this is one of those where the head and neck are connected. And then the neck is on what feels like a double ball peg into the chest. But I can't get the head to go further this way. I can get it to lean over this way, but I can't get it. I'm not sure what's wrong. Like, I don't see what's preventing it. Is it the soft goods? No, it feels like the engineering itself. I'm going to heat it up and try, but like he's always kind of leaning his head a bit over. Now posed, not an issue, but just in terms of the versatility of the figure, kind of a bummer. That may very well be an individual problem, and individual results might vary on that. If you have this figure, I'd be curious to know if yours has the same issue, but mine definitely does. I can't get the head over towards the strap anymore. I can get it over this side, but not over that side, no matter what I try, which is a bummer. Double ball peg from the chest into the abdomen. However, with the soft goods, it makes it almost impossible to use. That's another issue I have with soft goods. And then a single from the abdomen into the pelvis. So using both, you really only get them that far over and then that far back. You don't really get much out of them. You know, like this is one where the articulation does end up suffering. That's why I was so taken back by the Jen Erso representation, because you really got a lot of articulation out of her, even with the soft goods. This stuff is a little bit more stiff, and then it's not as malleable. So we have a ball peg into the torso from the shoulder coming out to what feels like a disc hinge. It's kind of impossible to tell. You can get up to about 90 degrees. You can swivel just shy of 90 degrees. Like this is that Hot Toys issue I have. Bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow, get you the arm all the way up. That's perfect. Works like a champ. Wrists are on ball hinges. They swivel at both sides and hinge, so you can manipulate them to get the in out and then turn them around, swivel the hand back, and get the up down. No issue, so to speak. For the legs, feels like ball pegs. The legs actually have a lot of range because of the bagginess of the pants and the looseness of the material. So he almost gets the full Van Damme. It's almost like the opposite of Jen, you know? And then forward, no issue. So the legs are really well done. They swivel at the thigh around the ball peg, it feels like. Double jointed knee, no issue there. So that's nice. This material here, for what it's worth, this has a really nice weight to it. This ends up tricking the eye a bit more, whatever they used for this. And then the ankles swivel. They're on what feels like a double ball peg to me. You get a tilt a good bit up, a little bit down, and a little bit more rocker than I'm used to with Hot Toys, but still not as much as I would like. So, you know, articulation wise, it's good. It's just it's good in the exact opposite way that Jen was good, where this one is the bottom half of the figure that works really well and the top half that doesn't work as well. And there he is next to Jen, which I think looks fine. And then that's just for funsies. All right, so let's talk about the negatives. The negatives are we lose tons of articulation in the upper body. Now, luckily, you can still get the arms in a pose that's decent enough where you can pull off stuff like this if that's how you want it. You know, and that there's nothing wrong with that. That works fine. You know, you can make the argument it works better than fine. The outer cape, like the black cape here in the back, it still has that Hot Toys curse of not having the weight match, like the physical weight match what the material should look like. And it's the same with the pants. And that little bar up in the crotch ain't doing it no favors right now either, I can tell you that. And then the last thing, and I'm not sure if it's specific to mine, I would imagine that it is just that funky bit of engineering in the neck. I'm not sure that mine is stuck. Maybe I gotta heat it up, or I don't know what's going on there. Maybe something's broken internally, but you know, if anybody has this, please let me know if yours is like that, because mine just has a ton of issues there and it's really off-putting. Plenty of positives though. The sculpt is fantastic. The accessories are fantastic. The paint is great. All of the things that Hot Toys does well, by my standard and opinion, consistently they continue to do well with this piece. With that said, the extra bonus is the leg articulation is fantastic. Most of that is due to the fabric choice for the pants. The deluxe version I think only comes with like some foliage and a Stormtrooper helmet. I don't feel like the deluxe version is necessarily worth it, but I think to have Baze and Chirrut together in this scale, I think is gonna ultimately look pretty impressive. Hopefully the Baze gets made. Fingers crossed, otherwise I'm stuck with a Chirrut. And to me, like, I know these characters aren't like the main focus of that story, but there's something about brotherhood. There's something about guys that would die for each other that I really, really, really value. I value it with Han and Chewie, I value it with Cap and Buck, and I value it with those guys. And maybe it's because sometimes, like, you know, I feel like I gotta meditate here. I go through my own personal trials and tribulations.
Can you play video games with me? Can you?
Come here and make this broccoli.
Can you repeat the cat?
The force is with me. I am one with the force is with me. I am one with the force is with me.
But whatever the reason, I do value brotherhood. I do value that level of friendship. I think it's something that often goes overlooked, especially in today's Hollywood, where it's just not, it doesn't seem to be valued any longer. So I always love when those sorts of relationships are presented in present and current day or modern day media. So yeah, I'm a fan of the characters. I like the way this guy looks. It's not great. It's good enough. That's kind of where I put it. I can't really recommend it to you because a large portion of this depends on his right-hand man coming out. So it's like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this on its own, but if the Baze comes out and is at least up to this quality or standard of quality, then I could recommend both, if that makes sense. So hope that helps. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.